In my Etsy shop, I'm creating products themed around some of the most popular fantasy books in the world. And I'm doing it legally. When it comes to creating anything related to books, TV shows, movies, games, brands, or celebrities, you absolutely have to obtain licensing from the IP holder in order to sell these items legally. And yeah, tons of people sell this stuff illegally, but they're putting their brands at huge risk, including having their shop shut down, or worse, getting sued. For those who may be new here, my name is Starla Moore, founder of the Handmade Alpha Academy for Etsy sellers and manager at erank.com, Etsy's most popular SEO tool. And guys, I'm not going to lie, covering copyright and trademark content is bad for my mental health. The last time I made a video about this, the comments were like a boiling pot of angry stew between people saying that Disney should be sued, Etsy should be sued, the seller should be sued, and about 100 other tangents about Disney being woke. I feel like I need to put a big friendship shirt on y'all and give you a big lollipop and a coloring page and make you be nice. To keep our subject on topic today, please check out this playlist up here for my past videos on copyright and trademark laws. But to keep it short and sweet, big games, TV shows, movies, and brands are not realistic licensing targets for small sellers like us. It's just too expensive, and the risks are too high. As I always say, unless your lawyers can beat their lawyers, it's best to play it safe. But what about small targets? Targets that are easy to obtain rights for and that don't require thousands in licensing costs. Unfortunately, there aren't many scenarios where this is possible, but the two that I've personally discovered are books and indie video games. And let me start by saying that these are not niches to sell within if you know nothing about the subject. As in, if you don't read these books or play these games, it's probably not a good idea to target these niches. Not only will you end up designing items that you know nothing about, but you'll also struggle to connect with your ideal customers in a meaningful way. I was a reader and an author long before I ever decided to start a shop related to bookish products, which has allowed me to identify the best possible authors to work with, as well as how to best communicate with my ideal shoppers. So, step 1 in obtaining legal licensing? Know your niche. Spend time on the platforms where your ideal customers are hanging out. For me, I spend a lot of time on Instagram and TikTok in order to stay up to date on which books are the most popular. It also allows me to see other brands that have already obtained licensing from specific authors, which is a good indication that the author has merch licensing available. Step 2. Pick your author. Michelle and I keep a Trello board of all possible authors that we'd like to partner with, along with their contact information, which you can almost always find right on the author's website. As we read new books, we constantly add to this list. And when choosing authors, just remember, it's very unlikely that you're going to obtain licensing for books like Harry Potter, The Witcher, Game of Thrones, or Hunger Games, as these rights are not only owned by the author and publisher, but by the studio who owns rights to the television adaptations as well. For example, when licensing with author Jennifer Armentrout, we reached out for licensing rights after her popular From Blood and Ash series was already purchased by Amazon for future film adaptations. If we'd reached out last year, we'd be able to make things like shirts, for example, but because Amazon now owns these merchandising rights, we were only able to contract for paper products such as stickers. This is why keeping an eye on popular books is super important, because if you can secure your licensing rights before the book is picked up by a film studio, you may be able to maintain those rights even after a TV adaptation is produced. Obviously, this will vary case by case. Step 3, send your proposal email. Really, Bubbers? On camera? He has no modesty. He's like, what? Most large authors will have a designated contact email address listed right on their website. This is where you want to contact them. No Instagram DMs, no Facebook messages. Remember, this is a professional business proposal, so you want to keep all communication through email. And typically you'll find this contact email on one of 3 pages on their website, on their About page, their contact page, or their FAQs page. Next, you'll want to draft up a professional proposal. And if you're not a strong writer, this is the time to ask for help from a friend or to use something like the free Grammarly browser extension. For example, you might say something like, "Hello, my name is blank, and I'd like to inquire about the process of obtaining licensing rights for blank. In this area, you can state the author's name or the specific book series that you'd like to obtain licensing for. My shop link is blank, and my merchandise includes products such as blank, blank, and blank. So you might say something like shirts, stickers, and notebooks, for example. I'm happy to send examples of my work if necessary. Please let me know if there's any additional information that you need from me. I look forward to hearing from you. As of right now, we've personally sent requests to 25 different authors. We've received 12 responses, 3 have rejected our request, 3 are pending, 13 have not responded, but we've received licensing from 6 authors, 3 of which are super popular. So don't get discouraged if you don't hear back, but also don't be afraid to follow up after a few weeks. It's very unlikely that you'll ever actually speak to the actual author themselves, since most will have an assistant handling their communication. Step 4, review their terms. When creating licensed products, every author will have their own process and contract for their intellectual property, and some will have very specific rules to follow. For example, one author licensed with us under the condition that I don't feature those items here on my YouTube channel. This same author also requires that we send one of each physical item to her for approval. Another author only requires that we send the design files for approval, but once the designs are approved, we can utilize them on any item. And one smaller author was just thrilled that we wanted to make merch based on our series and required nothing from us. So when you receive your contract, just be sure to read over it very carefully, and don't be afraid to contact a legal expert to look things over if you feel that it's necessary. Step 5, plan for royalties. Each author will require different percentages and methods for payments when it comes to the sales that you make of their licensed items. Again, this is where you need to make sure that you stay super organized with something like a spreadsheet or a Trello board, which is what we personally use. As of right now, 3 of the authors that we work with require a 20% commission on all sales that we make of their merch. One author requires 15%, one requires 10%, and one smaller author was just flattered to work with us and requires no commission. Remember, licensing legally with these authors protects you from being sued by them later. These books are their intellectual property, so be sure to factor in these percentages when pricing your products. And look to bigger brands like The Bookish Box for ideas on how they price their officially licensed items. Step 6. Add your disclaimers. In most cases, your contract will contain something meant to copy and paste into your product descriptions, stating that the author has granted you permission to use their series, but that they do not claim any responsibility for the items sold. If you're working with multiple authors like we are, you may have several different versions of this disclaimer. So just be sure to check your contract. In fact, if a disclaimer isn't included in your contract, you may want to email the author again to ask if there's anything specific that needs to be added to your listings, just to be safe. In our shop, we're also including an image like this that tells shoppers that we're officially licensed, which might even help to promote a bit of trust. Step 7. Check the contract for a renewal date. For one of the authors that we're working with, our contract is only valid for 12 months, which means after our contract ends, we'll need to submit it again for a reevaluation. If you're using a spreadsheet or Trello, you can easily add this date right to your author column, or simply set yourself a Google Calendar reminder that sends a notification to your phone. That way you don't forget. As a content creator, an avid reader, and a science fiction author, respecting the intellectual property of fellow authors is extremely important to me. Not only does legal licensing help you to connect with insanely popular niches, but it also helps you to support the authors that you love by ensuring that they're being paid for the use of their IP. If you're interested in following our new shop, I'll go ahead and leave a link down below. And now that we're at the end of today's video, I just wanted to quickly mention that my self-paced coaching program is opening in just a few short weeks. HAA is my 9-module training program that teaches sellers how to build, market, and grow dominant brands on Etsy step by step. In the Handmade Alpha Academy, I teach you how to define your target audience, how to use proven psychological triggers in your shop and marketing to attract that ideal customer, and how to build a perpetual traffic funnel so that you have more control over the money that you make from your business. In a world where, let's Face it, most coaches here on YouTube are pretty sketchy. In the Handmade Alpha Academy, we focus on building long-term and defined brands with purpose and integrity, rather than teaching you how to chase the next get-rich-quick scheme. You guys know what I'm talking about. And this is exactly why we have over 1,000 successful students, many of whom run their businesses full-time. Not to mention, I'm so invested in your Etsy success that I personally buy each of my students a 12-month eRank Pro subscription for your keyword research. And I provide you with annual access to our yearly Alpha Holiday Bootcamp. So if you dig my teaching style and this sounds like something that you may be interested in checking out for your own business, I've added a link up here somewhere and down below where you can learn more about the program, our success stories, and the class curriculum. Overall, licensing on Etsy is an amazing way to give back to authors that you love, while also creating products with cult followings that will keep coming back to buy again and again. And with a little science, a lot of data, and some help from a trusted Etsy expert, you'll be well on your way to Etsy success. Cue the funky lo-fi beat.